Alrighty, so I'm Kaspur, and a lot of people have been asking me to make a demonology guide. Just going through the basics, just to get you guys on your feet. And I'm going to make a quick, mostly unedited guide for you guys, just to run you through what it takes to be a demo. Alright, so first things first, you just swap to the spec. What do I do? Alright. Well, first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to summon your pet. And you notice, what kind of pet am I using? It's a weird pet. I don't get that with any other spec. Well, it's because demonology gets its own specific pet. It's called a Felguard, although I have a glyph on him currently to make him a Wrathguard. But ignore that. The Wrathguard has a couple of unique abilities. Axe Toss, it's a little 4-second stun on a 30-second cooldown with a 30-yard range. It's instant, and it's based on the pet's range, not my own. Mortal Cleave, it's just a frontal cone damage with healing reduction for 6 seconds. Pursuit, it's primarily how your pet's going to be getting in and out of combat, swapping targets. And Wrathstorm, self-explanatory. Alright. As for talents, it's ultimately going to be up to the type of content that you're looking to do. But I'll start with a single target patchwork fight just to get things going. Primarily where you're going to want to be playing demonology anyway. So, your talent choices for pure single target are going to be Shadow Inspiration, which makes your demonic empowerment cause your next Shadow Bolt to be instant. Improved Dreadstalkers, which makes your Dreadstalker summon 2 imps. Demonic Circle, tier 45 and 75 are ultimately player choice. It doesn't matter. Demonic Circle and Burning Rush are just the mobility options. That's what I personally enjoy the most. I find them coming in handy more than they don't. Power Trip, which causes Demonic Empowerment to have a 65% chance to generate a single soul shard when used in combat. Grimoire of Service, which summons a second demon, which fights fear for 25 seconds and deals double damage, or 100% increased, with a 1.5 minute cooldown. The demon will immediately use one of its special abilities when summoned. You're going to primarily be summoning a Felguard with this cooldown, as it is demonology's specific pet, does the most damage. The Felguard will stun the target, so this is another way to proc Cephus if you are needing it. But with Axe Toss being a 30-second cooldown, you generally can just use this on cooldown because Cephus' cooldown is also 30 seconds. And for the last talent, we have Soul Conduit, where every soul shard we spend has a 20% chance to be refunded. Now, this may seem like a lottery, and it kind of is. This is where the primary RNG aspect of demonology comes into play, because you're going to be having a little bit of RNG whether or not Power Trip procs, and then a little bit of RNG whether or not Soul Conduit procs per shard. Now, when you're high rolling, boy does this spec feel good, but when you're low rolling, it can kind of feel a little bad. Not as bad as an AF low roll, but we'll get there. Alright, so for skills, we're going to start with the skill that's most frequently used, which is Demonic Empowerment. Now these values will change depending on how much Summoner's Prowess relics you have, and how much Mastery you have, as Mastery increases the damage of your pets while they are under the effects of Demonic Empowerment. So, for me, in my current gear, in my current relics, Demonic Empowerment increases all of my active demons' haste, health, and damage by those values for 12 seconds. basically they juice the boys up. They get a little bigger, they get a little pink. They're juiced up. The second most used ability is Shadow Bolt. Now what you're going to want to do after Demonic Empowerment is you're going to want to use your Shadow Inspiration proc and clip the Demonic Empowerment into a Shadow Bolt. Clipping just means using an ability right after a casted ability, as to not eat a lot of time in global cooldown. Our third most used ability is Doom. Doom's a 40-yard range instant cast dot that actually isn't a dot, but more a debuff that is basically a ticking time bomb. So you use it, and this is going to do absolutely nothing for the 13.3 seconds at my current haste value. Boom. So he just took 758k Doom damage, and I got a shard. Basically, this is one of the more difficult aspects of Demonology, as you have to manually upkeep this buff. You saw my weak aura go off. That's warning me that it's 3 seconds or less on the debuff. You can apply a Doom when it's in a perdition, which is when the debuff has a 40% duration or less, and it will in fact still give you the Doom after it ticks off. You don't have to wait for it to tick off and then reapply. So you can apply in advance. Let me just unsummon my pet here. So I hit Doom, right? I'm going to reset all the data just to show that I'm not hitting damage. Nothing is happening, nothing is happening. Okay, reapply Doom. Boom, Doom just ticked for 1.5 mil. Got a little bit of a Torment of the Weak proc. Doom, 3 seconds. It's applied a little earlier this time. There it goes again. It ticked again. Another million right there. And it's giving me shards each time. So this is something you're going to want to upkeep at all stages of the game. Never want to let this drop. Your Doom uptime should be close to 100%. Alright. So the third most used ability is called Dreadstalkers. And called Dreadstalkers costs 2 soul shards. The first spending ability that we're introducing here. It's going to summon 2 doggies, and with our talent improved Dreadstalkers, it's going to have little fell imps on top, shooting them. When you empower them, they shoot faster, deal more damage, etc. Now, when these come out, they immediately cast a spell called Dreadbite. I can't really show you. Basically, it just does a decent chunk of damage. They also, when they cast Dreadbite, they also increase the damage taken from Fell Firebolt by 10%. Now you'll notice this debuff here. Each one increases the damage of Fell Firebolt by 10%. So these guys are going to take a little more damage from my imps. Another thing you'll notice is that they ride over to the target instead of exploding and just being out and about. This is very good in conjunction with our next most used ability, Demon Wrath. Demon Wrath is our AoE ability. It's a channeled ability that I can use while moving. You'll notice it's not a very visible pulse, but there's a little purple pulse around my demon. It's not me, it's my demon. So my demons pulse for shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards. And this is any of my demons. So if I unsummon my personal demon, I summon the dogs, and a Demon Wrath, you notice these guys are now pulsing with the purple energy. This is used whenever there are 3 or more targets, as it also generates soul shards, and has a 15% chance to generate 1 soul shard each time it hits. So, only 1 pet can be affecting an enemy with Demon Wrath at any given time, so it's not like the more pets you get out, the more damage you hit with Demon Wrath. However, the more pets you have out, the more area you can cover with Demon Wrath, as your imps will kind of be wherever they spawn. Your Felguard can be wherever you want. Your Grimoire Felguard can be wherever you want to hit them, and your dogs can be on any target that you choose. So you can cover some pretty large areas with Demon Wrath. Your next ability is Grimoire Felguard. Briefly went over this, but basically it's just another Felguard that deals double damage. Whenever you summon a pet, it's very important that you immediately demonic empowerment. I'll go over a couple of exceptions in the rotation video, or part of the video. Look at this guy Chunk. Look at this guy Big Boy Chunker. He uses the exact same abilities as the regular Felguard. The next most commonly used ability is the Doomguard. Same thing if you've played Affliction. There's really no difference except you can empower yours to deal some pretty massive damage. Now, keep in mind, Doomguard, his Doom Bolt, actually does more damage to targets that are on low life. It has an execute built in. So you're going to want to time your Doomguards with low life targets that are going to live through the entire duration of the Doomguard to maximize your damage. And that leads us to the most important ability, and the ability that makes or breaks your Demonology DPS. Thal'kiel's Consumption. Man, this artifact ability is complex. So, Thal'kiel drains 8% of the life from your demon servants and unleashes a blast of shadow damage at your current target equal to the life he stole. So now, if we recap, demonic empowerment increases the health of our demons. Now, that didn't really matter until this ability was introduced. So, when we empower our demons, we're giving them more life, which is allowing Thal'kiel's Consumption to steal more life from the target, in conjunction with the helmet that we have, increasing the damage of our next Thal'kiel's Consumption per soul shard spent. We can rack up some insane damage, and I've seen this go up to 128 million, which is pretty absurd. You'll see your damage go up to drastic numbers when you play. I've seen it go in a 6-minute fight, like 6 minutes into the fight, go from 2.5 to 2.6 just from the one hit. You'll see it jump. But it is the most commonly misused ability in the entire game. And I say that because, well, isn't this just how you use it? You just want to keep it on cooldown, right? Well, I did 1.14 million damage. Well, no. That was a terrible Thal'kiel's Consumption. If the high ground, or the high, if the ceiling, rather, is 1.4 or 100 or 127 million, it hitting 1 million is kind of chump change. It's not really that big. I mean, it crit, but it's not very good. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use it in conjunction with other pets that are also empowered. So if I were to just get a little bit of, this is a very improper rotation, but just to show you. Summon a little bit of pets, I empowered them. All of a sudden, my Thal'kiels hit 6.7 million. I can tell you a little bit whether or not that's a crit. And that also was a crit. So, and that's also a very low thal'kiels. We can get it to some pretty absurd numbers with Bloodlust and Haste and playing properly and whatnot. But this is what's going to make or break your Demonology DPS. If you can learn this, you can learn anything. Alright, so gear and legendaries. Well, first thing you should know is Haste is king. You're going to want to stack Haste on every single piece of gear you can get your hands on. Haste will never stop being good. These bracers are shit. But every other piece you'll see, I am pretty much stacking Haste exclusively. The reason for that is your pets are also affected by your Haste, and your Haste allows you to get casts more frequently. Casts are faster, which allows you to get more pets out at any given time. If this lasts 12 seconds, and you can get these cast times shortened so you can get more pets out more frequently, that means that your thal'kiel's consumptions will be bigger, which is fantastic. That's the majority of your big boy damage. Your pets will be casting faster, which is fantastic. It stacks multiplicatively with the Demonic Empowerment Haste steroid that you give them. Overall, it's just a fantastic stat, and you want to stack it as much as possible. Now, Mastery is going to be what you're going to use most of your secondary stats on, as it increases the raw damage capability of your pets, because Demonic Empowerment is going to be up pretty much 100% of the time on all of your pets. Mastery is pretty great. Crit, can't really get too much, too little crit. Crit is a healthy third best stat until you get about 6k of it, and then it starts to lose a little bit of value. Verse, surprisingly, once you get a very high amount of Haste and Mastery, Versatility ends up starting to pull ahead of Mastery, and you want to stack a little bit more of that because Versatility is so low. I'd imagine if my item level was 10 higher, I would want a little bit more Versatility, maybe a Versatility Haste amulet or something. Alright, so trinkets, you can't go wrong with Norgannon's Prowess and Arcano. Just the raw stats. They'll be the two best in slots. Replace Arcano with an Amanthal's if you have that. Legendaries, best in slot single target. Wakener's Loyalty and Wilfred's Sigil of Superior Summoning. Wilfred's Loyalty making your thal'kiels deal 3% additional damage for each soul shard that you spend. This changes the way that you use this ability. I will only be teaching you how to use thal'kiels with the helmet, as using it without, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have a lot of pets out, use it. 11 being a decent amount of pets. Wilfred's Sigil of Superior Summoning. Each Dreadstalker or Wild Imp you summon reduces the cooldown of your summon Doomguard and Infernal by 2 seconds. So this is a 3-minute cooldown. But with this ring, it essentially lowers to a 1.4 minute cooldown, maybe 1.2 with Bloodlust. As you pop off, this cooldown goes down pretty fast. So, rotation and priority. Basically, Demonology is a priority-based system where there's a lot of choices and decisions that you have to make on the fly. This is the most complex part of the video, and this is the main reason you watch the video. So, the priority system is as follows. You're going to want to upkeep Doom as much as possible. You're going to want to keep Doomguard on cooldown with the ring. That's the second thing. Dreadstalkers is third. very important that these dogs are on cooldown as much as possible, as it increases your imp damage and it increases the damage that you deal, because the dogs are nothing to sniff at. They're very, very, very damaging. And they actually have a ridiculous amount of health for thal'kiels. Grimoire Felguard. Keep your cooldowns on cooldowns. On cooldown. Now with all your pets out of the way and your doom ticking, or ticking away, demonic empowerment. Make sure that those demons are empowered. Always empower your demons. Never leave a boy unturned. Alright, so clip all your demonic empowerments into shadow bolts for reasons that we've went over. 4 shard Hand of Gul'dan. thal'kiel's consumption. Demon Wrath only if there's 3 targets or more, and only if you know you can hit those 3 targets, keeping in mind where your imps and dreadstalkers are located. And then a 3 imp Hand of Gul'dan. 3 imp Hand of Gul'dan is usually never worth using, but if you absolutely have to, you have nothing else, and your dogs are coming up on off cooldown in the next 3 seconds, it might be worth using a Hand of Gul'dan, just so that you can ensure that you don't waste any shards before Dreadstalkers comes out. As for the opener, on 2 you're going to want to precast Demonic Empowerment. You're going to want to pot right after the Demonic Empowerment, and then you're going to want to Shadow Bolt. Right after the Shadow Bolt, you're going to want to Doom, Doom Guard, Dreadstalkers, Felguard, Demonic Empowerment, Shadow Bolt. Now, there's a generic rule, or there's a general rule of thumb. You never want to tri-pet into a Demonic Empowerment, as you waste a little bit of damage. But in your opener, this changes things, because all of your cooldowns are up at the exact same time. This will be the only time that all of your cooldowns and everything lines up in the way that it does here. If you can summon a Doomguard and a Felguard, or a Dreadstalkers and a Doomguard, and Dreadstalkers and a Felguard, anything from this top row here, if you can summon them back to back, it's generally worth doing before you Demonic Empowerment. It's never worth Hand of Gul'dan into Dreadstalkers into Demonic Empowerment, because those Gul'dan imps are going to get about 3 casts off where they're unempowered and not really doing any damage. Same thing with Dreadstalkers into Hand of Gul'dan, Dreadstalkers into Shadow Bolt, any kind of combination of the two here. You usually want to come off of a pet cast with an immediate Dreadstalker or Demonic Empowerment Shadow Bolt, as to not waste any autos or casts from your pets where they're not turned up. So let me just run you through just a random pull, just to show you guys what an opener and rotation looks like. And I'll try to commentate as much as I possibly can. Alright, so I'm going to pull in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I should have doomed before Doomguard there, but you get the idea. Something I didn't mention in the abilities or rotation at all is Life Tap. Man, the spec is fucking complicated. So basically, you're gonna use Life Tap whenever you need to move. Same with Doom, same with your Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt is great, because you're gonna be waiting for the GCD anyway. In between little Shadow Bolt casts, you get a little bit of a move. So whenever you have to move, or whenever you want to move, you can do it when you're shadow bolting, when you're dooming, when you're life tapping, not when you're pulling up your achievements. So right there, to make sure that Doom was always taking on the boss there, I went demonic empowerment into a Doom because I knew that it was going to tick before the Shadow Bolt's GCD was going to happen. These are the decisions that you're going to have to make on the fly, and you're going to have to get good at. When do I dogs? When do I fell guard? When do I do this? Right? These are all decisions that you're going to have to answer. Generally speaking, if you consult the priority list and you make sure that every keystroke adheres to the priorities, you will not lose damage. Priority being keep Doom on the target. Then you're going to want to Doom Guard. You're going to want to Dreadstalkers, Fell Guard, Demonic Empowerment. As long as you adhere to those priorities and you fill with the Demonic Empowerment Shadow Bolt to generate shards, you can't go wrong. 18 pet thal'kiels coming in. So a little cool thing about thal'kiels is when you use it, it snapshots the health of the mobs or the demons when it was cast. So you can use your trinkets, you can demonic empowerment. Like you can see, these guys are about to tick off, right? If I were to thal'kiel now, I would still get those pets, even though they died while thal'kiels was airborne. It snapshots from the time that the health was stolen. So the pets don't need to be alive when thal'kiels hits, rather they just need to be alive right before you get the cast done. So you want, even though my weak aura will tell me that my pets are dead or they're going to die, and the number will go from 11 to 9 or 8 or whatever have you, I indeed got an 11 thal'kiels or 11 plus thal'kiels. That's about it. I mean, at that point, I'm getting into some more advanced stuff, and if you need help with advanced stuff, I wouldn't mind answering a few questions over on my Twitch or through Discord or what have you, or leave it in the comments. But generally speaking, priority list. Make sure your legendaries are all up to snuff. Keep simming yourself. It's very important you sim yourself. Raid bots, Simcraft, the likes. You're going to want to make sure all of your pets are demonic empowerment. Turn those boys up. Keep your cooldowns on cooldown. Keep Doom up. Never let it drop. Make sure that when Doom does drop, that you aren't shard capped. And if you are shard capped, find a quick way to spend a shard so that you don't waste the shard that Doom gives you. And just have fun. Demo's all about enjoying the spec. It's very rewarding. It's challenging, but at the end of the day, it has some pretty hard-hitting single target. It's actually the top spec for Arcus or Warlock. I think it's actually neck and neck with Destro, but yeah, it's got a place in Argus, and hope you guys enjoy the spec. Well, that was everything, and I hope you guys at least learned a little bit. I know I rambled for quite some time and probably said more things that than I intended, but thanks for watching, and see y'all in at the dummies.